Hi, welcome back to Cafe Latte Chat. Back to our panelists for our final segment. Azima, would you like to say if the option is accepted by the government for English medium school to be offered to a segment of the society, are we able to carry it out?
Yeah, I think so, because there's so many schools you can choose from. For instance, I think the mission schools are quite ready to transform immediately. And then you also have the premier schools, the residential schools, the control schools, the high performance schools, the cluster schools where the niche is English, schools that have won and continue to win English awards. Some urban schools, and definitely the rural students should be given opportunity as well. So every rural district should have at least one English medium school to ensure that education is equitable, and that it should not just be available for urban kids but rural as well, because I believe, I mean, Mara is doing that for rural kids. In Mara, you have the rural 90% of the kids that go to Mara schools are rural, and now they have a double track whereby O levels is offered in the afternoons for 5 MRSM schools, and I think by 2015 or 16, all the 40 odd MRSM schools will be double tracking the local curriculum with GCE O levels. This is fantastic, something a lot of us can emulate, once we get the teachers corrected.
Dr. Len, anything to add?
I just wanted to comment on those Mara colleges. If English medium instructions could be offered in such settings, well, why not? Why not in other settings, for instance? And again, it boils down to the issue of fairness, of equity for everybody, for all Malaysians.
What about delivery in the language?
Well, I think we should start small, because again, it's not a wholesale transformation of all the national schools. That's not what we're asking for. We are asking for a separate setting up of vernacular schools, but now offering instructions in English. So we can start small, start with a few, and again, as I've said earlier, my projection is that the response will be overwhelming.
With the this option, would the international schools be affected as well?
Well, the international schools only account for less than 1%. So the impact will be small. The impact could be there, but I think it's small. Yeah. But you raise the issue about the public sector versus the private sector. And I think the roles and responsibilities of the public sector is very different from that of the private sector. Private sector offers a choice, and as Datin mentioned, is a choice for those that can afford. And you see that in all nations nowadays. There's a public and a private sector. In Malaysia, if you look at hospitals, we accept that. There is a public hospital and there are private hospitals. You can discuss about the equity of healthcare as you talk about education. But I see the role of the private sector being there to support the public sector. We have made trips to a small town in Jeli up north. All right, and through the initiative of one of the ministers, where he where he gathers all the children from the farm, from the farmers' kids, and he brings them to his home every weekend, feed them, house them for a weekend, and the reason for doing that is to improve their English. And what he does is he comes to schools like ours and says that come and speak to our kids. So I've been up there, spoke to the kids. We have sent teachers up there, expat teachers as well, just to communicate with the farmers' kids. And the reason for that and the motivation of it all is these kids need to see the world. And why do they need to see the world? Very simple. So that their vision and their dreams can be widened. And I think that's a very important role as a government to ensure that the people have a widened vision and role. And we in the private sector can certainly help. We have a teacher training session as well. And we have sent our trainers up to Jeli as well, and talk to the teachers. And the teachers we have sponsored to come for our teacher training as well, because at the end of the day, it's critical to touch the teachers before you can touch the students. But we see the role as different. Yeah.
Then Haji Borhan?
Okay, I believe that still there's a disparity, very wide disparity between the rural, and the urban, and the affordable and non-affordable families. But then, if you read the paper, the statement made by I think YB Mary Ann, Timbalan, Deputy Education Minister, saying that 70% of English teachers now at this moment still they are not ready to teach English. In fact, right, 70% at this moment.
Of the Cambridge test.
Yeah, then.
Well, what about
What?
the 30% then? That's what we're talking about. So good, we have 30% of teachers
Well,
who
the
can
30% they
teach
are
English.
teaching
That's very
in
good.
these schools.
Yeah.
They are 30% they are teaching in this hostel school, you know, the premier school, whatever it is. The rest of it, still, we have to take care of them first. Give them all the. I think first thing now is English education. The English education must be taught right, properly, rightly, and with all the methodology, as you say, according to the international schools. Follow them first, then we introduce.
Talking about short-term and long-term goal, if we have English medium school, 100% of the students from the English medium school, when they graduate, they can all qualify. They have a potential to be English teachers as well, right? We are increasing the numbers of people who can speak and write and teach English. So wouldn't that be an added bonus for the nation?
Of course, there is another bonus lah. As I was also, I got my education in English. I was from. Of course, it's an added bonus for the government. But then we thought about the bonus, that bonus. But we are thinking about these people outside our box lah. No, these people they are still need a proper technique of teaching, a proper facilities. Then we think about introducing another some type of vernacular.
Is that the right? If I say that is a separate issue, then it is in the teaching training and not so much of English as a medium of instruction in the school. It's like the same teacher, if required to teach Bahasa Malaysia, would also face the same problem because of the pedagogical training.
Mostly for the English, but now I think when I interview the UITM TESOL student, UITM, yes, they are very good TESOL teachers, but not from, sorry to say, other universities lah. When I interview them, they still cannot teach English very well. You know, they cannot, in fact, converse English very well. So how they want to teach English? We still need something to add. I think might be the international school can come in and chip in so that we can together.
They have a
build
training
up
center.
a very good English teacher.
You
there.
just said that.
We now have Taylor's University, who is now have a school of education as well. But having said that, Rome was not built in a day. It is important for the nation to know, okay, what is the direction going forward? If we want a workforce that is able to do business around the world, and in today's day and age, business is done throughout the world on a daily basis. Just using an iPad, you can buy something on site. You can develop an app today and be a billionaire tomorrow by selling it to Apple. So the business itself has gone global. So the question that needs to be asked is really, what kind of workforce do we want by 2020? And how do we go about doing it? The preparation of teachers is critical, but if that is what we want, then we have to do that. There's no shortcut to it. The preparation precedes the blessings at the end of the day.
But I think the point is you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I just came back from Paris.
Right.
And the last time I was there in Paris was about 20 years ago. And back then, people do not speak English, usually.
Right.
Or they refuse to speak English because their command of English is not very good.
Sure.
But today, you go to any restaurant, you can easily speak English to the waiters and waitresses. No problem. So if there's a will, there's a way, and it can be done.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And that's why we say that's why I was saying we need to look forward.
Yeah.
If that is going to be the language of business, we can't fight it.
Yeah.
No country is an island by itself. China is opening up, and that's a powerhouse, and they are having over 100,000 native English speakers in the country just to teach them English. Korea has opened up, and there are many Korean students out here. And why are they here? They're learning English. All right.
Yes.
So that the whole world is opening up to one common language. We can choose to ignore that, or we can choose to embrace that, and be a part of the development in the world, of the progress in the world.
Yeah.
And we are not talking about relinquishing Bahasa Melayu, but we are talking about giving the options. The key word here is option. To give
Yes.
options to those who want it.
Yes.
All right, and to certain families, I know that when we moved from a national school to an international school, there are families that choose not to go to international,
Yeah.
but they have the option to stay.
Okay.
So when you have an option to go, you give the rest the option to stay, and that's what we are talking about as we go forward.
Just to wrap up, that means as we move forward
Yeah.
from an industrialized society into a more developed society, the language of acquiring knowledge, the language of communication, the international language, the status of English has changed as well. The role, not the status, the role played by the language.
Yes.
So it has become very pertinent for someone to have that language to move forward, to be able to be independent and make a livelihood, right? And with that, I end this session. I would like to thank the panelists. Thank you for watching Cafe Latte Chat.